doing? Good to see you. I'm your seat.
Thank you.
Last time I'm pretty sure that. Oh, actually, correct.
Let the record show it's 6 o'clock. We'll call our meeting to order. Sarah, would you please get the roll call?
Here.
Present?
Here.
Present.
Present.
Daniel Gann.
Here.
Derek Smith.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. You have before you the agenda. We're going to make just a slight adjustment to the public hearings. We have 6 public hearings this evening, and due to the crowd that we have, get you in and out. I know it could be testy when you go home. We'll get you out as quickly as we can. So I'd like to move Bridal Creek to our first public hearing, if you keep that in mind. The next item on the agenda is opportunity for the Sunshine Law. This is if you have questions or comments regarding anything, you would have signed up a few minutes before the meeting started. Is there anybody there that signed up for that? No? Okay. Right. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda with that modification?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goff,
Second.
second by Mr. Whitaker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next thing we have on the agenda is the approval of minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Steele. To approve the minutes, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, now we will begin with our public hearings, and the first item on the agenda is Bridal Creek Phase 6, Section 1.
This public hearing is for Bridal Creek, Phase 6, Section 1, lots 419 to 447, and lots 472 to 476. The file number is 058-18. The developer is Panhandle Homes. Surveyor is Fox and Associates. It's located in the Opequon District, map 10, parcel 20.01. along the east and west side of Barrel Race Road within the Bridal Creek subdivision. This project proposes 34 single-family residential lots on 12.54 acres to be served by public water and sewer. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends final plat approval contingent upon receipt of surety in the amount of $882,360. Plat to be released upon receipt of surety.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Steve Sianovich with Fox and Associates, representing the project.
Okay, thank you. All right, like I said, this is a public hearing. I would ask that if there are people who want to speak, that we do not have repeated items mentioned. We hear them, we don't need to hear them twice, and it just takes up a lot of time, and it gets more confusing. So if there's anyone to speak regarding Bridal Creek, now's your opportunity.
I've signed in, Madam Chairman. Thank you. My name is Clarence Settle. I'm here with my lovely wife, Susan. We live at 296 Balmore Lane, Martinsburg, West Virginia. Susan and I moved to Bridle Creek in January of 2014. We were told and given information that the community would have a recreation area, swimming pool, walking trails, and fishing. Per the mission statement of the Berkeley County Planning Department, the department's mission is to help protect the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the county. This is achieved by providing direct oversight and orderly, sound, and cost-effective land development within Berkeley County through the administration of the subdivision regulations. We are here to assist the citizens of Berkeley County and encourage residents to contact the office with any questions. The following is a list of chronological actions that have taken place in the last 5 years since we lived here. Berkeley County Planning Commission meetings. On 8/17/15, the commission granted the developer's request to reduce the open community rec area from 5.5 acres to 3.5. In additional to the developer, 8 additional new quarter-acre building lots. Final approval on Phase 4A, which reflects the requirement for a half-acre stormwater management system. This action continues to further reduce the community recreational area. An exemption was, in 10/19/15, an exemption for Section 705 of the subdivision code regulations requiring sidewalks was granted to the developer. No sidewalks. On 12/2, 2 weeks ago, additional 40 townhouses for Phase 5. Today, we're looking at the 34 new single-family homes in Phase 6. In 2019, going into 2020, there are 3 areas of construction that the Planning Commission has approved in Bridle Creek: Phase 4, 5, and 6. When you look at the overall plot plan, you see that Phase 4 is right in the middle of construction zone, completely surrounded by construction. Currently, there is construction with heavy-duty equipment in all 3 areas, with 30 to 40 homes in the middle, with 10-wheel dump trucks running all day long in the subdivision up to 6 days a week. Our subdivision roads were not built to withstand heavy-duty equipment, and it is a safety hazard, danger, and risk, and destroying the roads. How are homeowners notified about road bonds being released? At the December 2nd, 2019 DCPC meeting, it was stated the only way to notify is to review the Berkeley County Council agenda each week. I am requesting that the requirement for road bonds release belonging to HOAs, homeowner association, which basically the people that live in the subdivision, I'm requiring that they be posted 30 days before it goes to the council before release. The same way the public hearing got posted for this meeting. The signs provided by the Berkeley County Planning Commission. This would allow the homeowners to have testing done on the roads that they own to verify that they meet the requirements. Eagle School Road cannot handle the capacity of traffic when school buses are running. There are 3 school zones that cause congestion twice a day, further backing up traffic. How often are traffic studies required? At the December 2nd meeting, it was revealed that the traffic impact analysis was prepared on March 4th of 2019. The following information is from the study: the executive summary, improvement analysis, and the conclusions. Attached here, the copy of the traffic impact study dated 4 March 2019, executive summary. The street safety study prepared traffic impact study to support the continuation of development of Bridle Creek subdivision. This development was originally analyzed in 2006, and due to slower than expected sales, the site total of 342 single-family detached and 126 single-family attached dwelling units remain. The site is located on the north side of Eagle School Road, and access will be provided from Harness Race Road to Barrel Race Road. This access has not changed. The following guides were established by West Virginia DOH and discussed with West Virginia DOH staff to establish the scope of the study. The study utilized data collected in 4 intersections within the study area defined by the West Virginia DOH. Capacity analysis was performed using HMC, found that the Synco computer program. Query analysis was performed using SimTAF portion of the same program. The results of the analysis show that the proposed development could proceed within existing germane of the study intersections. The study does recommend the following improvements. Conduct a full signal warning study at the US 11 Meadow Lanes, Eagle School Road, Meadow Lanes intersection to determine if the signalization would be justified. Remark the westbound Meadowbrook Lane approach to provide existing right turn lane and a sharp left turn lane through. This would allow the right turn overlap phase to be installed once the synchronization is installed. Construct a 250-foot long northbound right turn lane on US 11 at Meadow Lane. This improvement, along with the other improvements changes, would result in acceptable levels of service at the intersection. Construct a 200-foot long established right-hand lane on Warm Springs Avenue at 11. This improvement would improve operations and the approach to help reduce the delay. An additional analysis was performed at US 11 and Meadow Lane, US 11 and Warm Spring Avenue, Eagle School Road, and Meadow Lane intersection to determine signalizations that would resolve the delays and that issues identified. The improvement analyzations are listed below. Construct an exclusive eastbound right turn lane on Warm Springs Road. Signalize Eagle School Road, Meadow Lane driveway intersection. Signalize US 11 Meadow Lane intersections. Existing lanes used. Signalize US 11 Meadow Lane intersection and change this on the West Meadow Lane line to the right turn overlap. Signalize US 11 Meadow Lane intersection lane used and change westbound Meadow Lane using the right turn overlap phase construction northbound right lane US 11. Additional analyses were also performed at these intersections to determine if roundabout controls would result in improved services. Conclusion. The field study analysis performed as a part of this study reveals that there are existing capability deficiencies at the US 11 Meadow Lane, US 11 Warm Spring Avenue intersection. These deficiencies will remain with or without the development of any additional units of Bridle Creek. With the completion of Bridle Creek development, there will continue to be capability deficiencies on US 11 Meadow Lane and US 11 Warm Spring Avenue intersections, as well as Eagle School Road and Meadow Lane intersection. Improvement along Meadow Lane between US 11 and Eagle School Road will need to be considered. The graded railroad crossing near US 11, the railroad parallels US 11 and is located constrains the scopes of improvement possibilities in the area. It appears that the best alternative to improve the traffic operations would be to signalize both US 11 Meadow Lane, Eagle School Road, and Meadow Lane intersections. These signals would have to be intercontrolled, coordinated with the Meadow Lane Railroad track installation. In conjunction with the signals at 11 and the intersection, it is recommended that the westbound approach of Meadow Lane be remarked, provide a sharp left through lane, and exchange right lane. The right lane can be then provide with a right turn lane overlapping the phase junction. Southbound lane, phase 11, in addition to the recommendation of 250-foot northbound right turn lane to be provided on US 11 at Meadow Lane. A 200-foot eastbound right turn lane is also recommended on Warm Springs Road to provide exclusive approach and lanes on the approach. The query deficiencies identified relate to minor and mostly addressed with the proper signalization of US 11 and Eagle School Road and Meadow Lane and the intersection.
Mr. Settle,
yes.
you've gone beyond your allotted time.
Okay, I'm just about ready to wrap up.
Thank you.
Okay, the addition of 342 single-family detached dwellings and 126 family attached dwellings further will mess up the traffic flow in and out of our community. Bridle Creek subdivision has been under construction since 2005, going over 15 years. How long does the developer have to complete the project? How long do we need to live in a construction area? Development in Berkeley County has overtaken the resources available to the county, i.e. roads, school, water, sewer. The Berkeley County Planning Commission should not approve development in Bridle Creek subdivision before the traffic deficiencies identified in the traffic impact analysis have been resolved and improved the quality of life in the county. Is it in the best direction and overall oversight of orderly and sound cost-effective land development within Berkeley County through the administration of the subdivision regulation? Thank you. I'd be glad to take any questions if anybody had a question. I'm sorry for taking too much time.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Everybody speak at once. You have anything you want to say?
Anyone else from the public else?
Oh, sorry. Anyone else from the public that would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Joe Bernice. I lived on Aqueduct Avenue in the Bridle Creek subdivision. In addition to what the gentleman just spoke of, the traffic lights, there's also an issue with entrances and exits from the south side of Meadow Lane into the strip mall, strip area over there. There are several stores. And Meadow Lane is very short. There are 2 entrances and exits from that strip mall area, and that's very hazardous getting in and out of Meadow Lane, so that should be addressed as well. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak regarding the project? If there are no further comments, could I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Goff, to close public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Whitaker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now closed on Bridle Creek. Planning Commission members, do you wish to offer any comments? Or perhaps maybe Mr. Stianovich has something that he'd like to add.
Thank you, Brenda. Mr. Settle was kind enough to pass out a document. I don't know if all of you received it.
I think I'm the only one that has.
If you don't mind, if I could have just a few minutes, I'd like to pass something out, and I'll talk about it in a minute. As most of you know, Mr. Settle was here 2 weeks ago tonight and posed many of the same questions, and I thought we answered those questions. What I'd like to do, and with my handout, is I'll very briefly go over the questions asked and the answers provided. In the handout, it actually gives written documentation that I think would answer the questions. I'll hit this briefly, but again, you have copies of all that. If it's normal and customary to put it in the record, I'm certainly in favor of that. First question he posed, or how are homeowners notified when the road bonds are being released? As you all know, that the county council is the body which releases or reduces sureties. For example, in the handout that I passed out, I just randomly clipped the agenda for the December 5th meeting. and that's actually page 3 of the handout. As you see on page 3 of the handout, there are 4 bond reductions that were heard during that time. The way I got it was I went on the county council webpage and actually looked at the council agenda to determine if we had any bond reductions. Quite honestly, I don't think any of these were mine anyway, but it's just my point being, by going on the www.berkeleycountycom.org, John Q. Public can have easy access to that information. The other thing I'd like to comment on is how often traffic studies are required. The document that Mr. Suttle read from today, the bulk of the document that Mr. Suttle read from today, included page 1, page 2, page 25, and 31 of the Bridle Creek traffic study. When you take select pages from that and only read those pages, I don't think it really gives a full view of what the body of the traffic study included. And where I'm headed with that, if you would be kind enough to turn to the page in your handout that I presented that is on Division of Highways letterhead. As you know, the item we're here to seek action on tonight is Bridle Creek Phase 6, Section 1, which is 34 lots, the final plat approval of those lots. The referenced letter in your handout, again on Division of Highways letterhead, was addressed to the project developer, and you'll note that we asked that he provide either a permit or an addendum to allow 54 lots within Phase 6. Now, of course, tonight we're looking at the final plat for Section 6, or excuse me, Phase 6, Section 1, which is 34 lots. The next final plat you'll see from us will be the balance of those lots to get us up to the 54 lot number that the Division of Highways document refers to. If you go to the 3rd paragraph of that letter, and I'll read that in part. Well, let me back up to the 2nd paragraph. After a traffic impact study was conducted, it is this office's opinion that the addition of 54 lots known as Phase 6 will not adversely affect the existing permitted entrance off of County Route 45/5. The 3rd paragraph of that document reads verbatim, however, we would also like to note the addition of any future lots will require the developer to install a right turn lane at the intersection of Eagle School Road and Meadow Lane. The developer will need to initiate the issuance of an agreement with the DOH. The DOH is evaluating improvements at this intersection. If a better solution is determined, the developer would be required to contribute, and again monetarily, to the project equivalent to the cost of the right turn lane as well, and will be laid out in that agreement. And then the letter ends please attach a copy of this letter with the subject permit as an addendum. The reason I include that is that DOH was well aware of the extent of the lots proposed within Phase 6. And again, this is only one component of Phase 6, which you have before you tonight. So this letter, not my interpretation, what it says in black and white is that the existing traffic conditions out there allow for a 54 lot addition to Bridle Creek before any of these improvements that are mentioned in the traffic report and the improvements that Mr. Suttle read from, pulling pages from the traffic report, aren't warranted until the 54 lot threshold is exceeded within Phase 6. Just another minute or two and I'll just had a couple things I wanted to hit on. The next question he posed was, how long does the developer have to complete the project? And there really isn't a good answer on it. I can't say 18 months or 10 years. But the Article 2 definitions include an item called vested property rights. And it's a pretty lengthy section. I won't read it verbatim, but I did include it in your packet. What that effectively says, as long as the developer is moving forward with a phased project, there really isn't a time frame for you shall have it done in X amount of years or in X amount of months. And then lastly, he posed the question, how long do we need to live in a construction zone? Again, that answer can't be quantified either due to a definitive date for the necessary completion of the project not being established. It's a phased project. It's really driven on home buying. As you're all aware, 2007, 2008, there was just, everything was stagnant for years and years and years. And Bridle Creek was one of those communities that up to 2008, we did sections 1, 2, and 3, and then it sat idle for many, many years. Excuse me, phases 1, 2, and 3. With that, I believe those are answers to the 4 questions that Mr. Suttle posed in his presentation, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you. Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Ciano? No questions?
No.
There's no questions. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask from your standpoint regarding the development of Bridle Creek? If there are-
No questions other than the developer has met the qualifications that are provided or that he has to go through with the planning commission in the development of that site. He's met all the requirements for it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Of course, the first step would be approval of the preliminary plat, which occurred previously.
Right.
And then the next step, of course, would be the final plat, which we're here tonight for phase 6, section 1.
And really, none of that would have been submitted without the approval from the Department of Highways.
That's correct. And actually, Jim, that goes back to the preliminary. I wouldn't be able to come before this board to seek approval of the preliminary until I show staff evidence of the DOH permit, or in this case, an addendum to the previously issued permit.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why the planning commission doesn't have any say, or the county doesn't have any say in the roads or anything. It's all controlled by the Department of Highways.
That's correct. It's a DOH road, and the need for a traffic study, the need for improvements, the need for drainage studies is always dictated to the consultant by the DOH staff.
That's all I have.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I think we can have a motion.
I move we accept staff recommendation that the final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance and recommends final plat approval contingent upon the receipt of the surety in an amount of $882,360.
Second.
I'm sorry, Mr. Goff, okay, motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation and grant final plat approval to phase 6, section 1, lots 419 through 447 and 472 through 476, and to post surety in the amount of $882,360. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
The next item in the agenda, we'll go back up and we'll get Nestle Woods.
This public hearing is a request for final plat approval for Nestlewood, Section 2A, file number 86-04. The developer is Nestle Bluff LLC, surveyors K&D Development. It's located in the Falling Waters District, map 6, parcel 253, and map 7. Parcels 215.1, 215.2, 217, and 218. It's located on the east side of Nestle Quarry Road, West Virginia Secondary Route 1/1, approximately 0.6 miles north of the intersection of Grade Road, West Virginia Route 1. The final plat is proposing 12 single-family lots on 53.48 acres to be served by private well and septic. Final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends final plat approval contingent upon receipt of surety in the amount of $179,551.20. Plat to be released upon receipt of surety and developer's agreement.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening, Christopher Smith here on behalf of Nestle Bluff LLC, the developer.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, this is a public hearing for Nestlewood, Section 2A. If you have questions or comments regarding that project, now's your opportunity to make those known. Please come forward, state your name, and any comments you might have. Let the record show that there is no comments. Could we close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goff,
Second.
second by Mr. Lewis to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of the staff or Mr. Smith?
There are no questions. I make a motion to accept staff recommendations for the final planning meeting requirements of subdivision ordinance. Granting final plat approval contingent upon the surety in the amount of $179,551.20. Plat to be released upon receipt of surety. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation to approve the final plat contingent upon receipt of $179,551.20 for Nestlewood, Section 2A. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item on the agenda for public hearing is Snooks Lane Storage.
This public hearing is for a request for waiver for Snooks Lane Storage, file number 52-17. It's also tied to 48-17. The developers R&D Investments LLC, surveyors Roberts Land Surveying, located in the Arden District, map 15, parcel 105.1, on the south side of Snooks Lane, West Virginia Route 19/10, 800 feet east of its intersection with Airport Road. The developer proposes commercial storage on approximately 5.85 acres to be served by existing private well and private septic. At the May 21st, 2018 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted an exception to Section 705 to not install sidewalks along Snooks Lane. Developers requesting a waiver to the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance 2009, Article 8, Section 801.1.10, requiring paved off-street parking. Although the waiver is self-imposed, it does not appear to contradict public interest, health, safety, and welfare. Waivers have been approved and denied in the past. This proposed access road and handicap parking area shall be paved. Engineer staff concurs with planning staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the waiver to Article 8, Section 801.1.10, requiring the paved off-street parking.
Okay, do we have anyone to represent the project?
Good evening. Mike Roberts, represent the project.
It's a public hearing. If you have questions or comments regarding Snooks Lane Storage, now's your opportunity. Please come forward, state your name and any comments you might have.
There are no public comments. I move we close public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Roberts or of the staff?
There are no questions. I make the motion to accept staff recommendations for approval of the waiver for Article 8, Section 801.1.10, requiring paved off-street parking. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, second by Mr. Goff to accept staff recommendation. and to approve the waiver of Article 8, Section 10.1, 801.1.10. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda for public hearing is Evans Run subdivision.
This public hearing is a request for sketch plan advancement. Project is Evans Run subdivision, file number 44-19. The developer is Evans Run LLC, the engineer is Greenway Engineering. It's located in the Arden District, map 9, parcel 61, at the intersection of Arden-Knollville Road and Tinsman Lane. This project proposes 34 single-family lots on approximately 72 acres to be served by private well and septic. The developer is requesting an exception to Section 705 to not install sidewalks, as there are no sidewalks currently in the vicinity. County Engineer Dirk Stansberry issued a letter of completion on November 14, 2019, and stated that the sketch plan meets the requirements to advance. Staff recommends granting the sidewalk exception, and with that, the plan meets the requirements and recommends advancement of the sketch to the preliminary stage.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Hi, good evening. Jamie McLean with Greenway Engineering.
Again, this is a public hearing. If you have questions or comments, please come forward and make those known.
Hi, my name is Kathy Mason, and I live at 292 Evans Run Drive in Pikeview West, which is along Evans Run. And I was thrilled to see that this 34 single-family home lots would be on 72 acres with private well and septic, so not impacting us other than the floodwater that would come, or the runoff that would come from there. I've lived there for 25 years, and Evans Run runs sometimes, it doesn't run other times, depending on the water table level. And but when there's a lot of rain, it does run. And there are a number of properties in that area that are in a floodplain. And I guess what I'm here to ask is that to make sure that the stormwater retention in this development is adequate so that there is no additional runoff going into Evans Run. It cannot tolerate that. In addition, Evans Run goes into Big Springs, which is a water supply for Berkeley County and the city of Martinsburg, and we don't need additional water going into there. So, I do have pictures, sorry, and I don't know, I'll give them to you, Linda. Just Evans Run when it is running from October of 19 and May, or October of 18 and November 18 and May of 19. So you can see it's sort of a length of time and what happens.
Is this your house?
That is my house. You see it runs when that's when it's cloudy and has been, or muddy, and then there's clear pictures when it's just sort of running regular. Thank you.
I need to recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure why.
Let the record show that Mr. Smith is recusing himself.
I have to step out.
Step out.
Hi, my name's Craig Dougal. I live at 28 Sharon's Lane. I live on a floodplain of Evans Run. My house is a floodplain approved by Berkeley County. I've met with everybody you think of, Heather, Dirk, Mr. Davis, Highway, Health Department, you name it. When it floods, I flood. Like the lady said, when the runoff comes, I get it. Now, how my house was approved to be built on a floodplain, I do not know. But it starts from Orrs Road, where they have a holding pond with numerous springs. That pond needs to be rebuilt bigger. The holding pond that they're planning here, what happens when that fills up? Where's the runoff gonna go? It's gonna go to Evans Run. There's 10 houses in called Kim Court subdivision. Should have never been built. The county and the Board of Plans are aware of this situation. You can't create more water upstream to run downstream. You got to fix the problem you got first before you create another problem. How are they going to do these lots? They're going to open them all up at one time, create more runoff? They're going to do them at 2, 3, 4, 5 at a time? I've even spoken to Greenway, Mark McDonald. He's been there. He says, you live in wetland. Your house sits on a wetland. I haven't heard from him since. So they're aware of the situation. This not only should not be built, you need to fix what's broken down. And it runs from Orrs Road to a 6-foot bulk culvert, which is shown on the plan here, to a 36-inch culvert in my backyard. The funnel is turned around backwards. And not only does it run from my yard, it goes all the way to the Opequon. Like this young lady said, all the way to the Opequon. When it runs, but it runs through my basement first. So this should not be approved. Heather, the floodplain coordinator, asked, what do you want me to do? Do what a floodplain coordinator does. Fix what's broke first. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you give me your name again, please?
Here's who I've spoken with. Highway Department, Health Department. I can't even drink my water. I'm retired.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Good evening. My name is Beth Poncione, and I live at 593 Tinsman Lane, formerly Beth Morgan. I am Hazel Tinsman's granddaughter, which is the farm that directly butts up to this property. For years, and my grandfather passed in 2008, myself, my brother, my mom, my dad, and Mr. Kenny Shade back here have taken care of this land that is being developed, or helped to take care of this land. It is rock ledges entirely, and I have drawn pictures all over this map where they are. Wetland, where you can't take a vehicle or a farm tractor down across this land or walk across it without sinking. Heaven forbid the dog take off across the farm and go down there. We already have a traffic problem with people going 50, 60, 70 mile an hour across Tinsman Lane, which, mind you can sometimes not get one vehicle across. This is going to increase traffic on Ardenalville, and we still farm on our farm that Tinsman Lane, which is named after my grandparents, directly is affected by. This property wasn't closed on until July, but there were observation holes dug in April. And we were notified by the person who was purchasing it that this is what they were doing in April. Why were the holes redug for the perk tests in November? They wouldn't test in April because they'd filled full of water. We were still the caretakers, and we know this. November, we are not the caretakers any longer, so I cannot tell you what happened to those holes, but they were redug. My dad can see the holes in his backyard. Like I said, Tinsman Lane isn't wide enough for more than one vehicle, and now I am terrified for us to take a tractor down our lane to operate our farm with the more traffic that's going to become of this. Has anybody taken into account the traffic that's going to come out of this development and affect not only Ardenalville Road, but Orr Drive as well? These are just some things that I hope that you guys take into consideration, and I've drawn on this where the rock ledges are that I can tell you firsthand that they are there. You can't, they're not passable. What happens when you blast in all of the old farmhouses out there? What happens to those? And all of our wells that have been there since the 50s when my granddad purchased the farm. Thank you.
Okay, I will tell you that this is just the sketch plat. This is very early in the development of the project, and now is when your public comments need to be heard, and thank you very much for that. The engineer may want to address those.
And thank you all for coming out tonight to let us know these issues of concern. I can speak to the issues that were brought up. One, the wetlands that were noted and the Evans Run. There has been a wetland delineation done, a wetland survey done. We will be coordinating with the Army Corps of Engineers as necessary if there's any sort of crossings that are required or any permits for that. Stormwater quality and quantity in compliance with the new MS4 requirements will be met with this one. I know that there are stormwater and flooding issues out there. I spoke with the engineers today on this before I left the office. They said, you know, based on what we are doing out there, if anything, it will make it better. It's not going to make it worse because we are going to put in the water quality and quantity features. There is a required riparian buffer that will be respected and maintained as per county code that goes along Evans Run, the 35-foot buffer. Traffic, we are coordinating with Larry Alt from District 5 for any of the entrances. He actually, when we submitted our sketch plan to them at the beginning, we went out, took a look at it with him. He actually had us move some of the entrances to a place where there were better sight distance as you're coming over that, cresting that knoll on Arden Knollville. So those are issues that we are aware of, and we will meet the requirements for the permitting and any outside agencies as we go through this process. But it's important to know the concerns of the community, and we appreciate them coming out tonight.
Sure.
Might have to come up to the microphone, I'm sorry.
Those new sidewalks, I'm asking, so therefore, you're gonna have no water drain off on the culverts feeding into that 4-acre holding pond. You're just gonna let it run naturally.
Of the project, we have a conceptual plan with for details.
But right now, if you have no sidewalk, you're not gonna have any culverts, no piping feeding into that holding pond, basically. Which I'm worried about the runoff. More runoff, like I said, about how many open lots gonna be at one time. Are they holding a little bit of grace we have left with the grass there now? And I am a wetland. Matter of fact, he was marked. He has a thumb drive of mine. Shows my house, ground by.
I will draw your
10
attention.
inches around my house. Nothing.
Okay, I'm going to draw everyone's attention to the fact that there is just 34 lots proposed. Once they get into the development and the design of it, and all the permitting agencies agree to what they've designed, there may not be 34 lots.
Yeah, but I don't care if you build 50 lots, and I don't care if they build a subdivision. I'm not against building. I'm against the flood management.
Well,
Fix the flooding, don't create more, and that's what I'm asking. And we're not getting the answers. I'm asking, how's the runoff gonna be, how's the culvert's gonna be? What if that 4-acre holding pond, I think is only 2 feet deep? What happens if it gives away? What happens if it overflows like Forest does? I get 4 feet of water at once.
Subdivision. That's for requirements, which is different than any farm pond through area. We will have to provide easements so that the county can come and make sure that those ponds are being maintained appropriately.
Evans Run going to be diverted in any way, shape, or form? Because it's already has over years, numerous and numerous times. You look at the maps. And the maps we use today were developed by the University of West Virginia, 2007. County acts like they created. No, they didn't. Engineering in West Virginia did. That's how I got on the law. It shows, you look at one, it shows my house surrounded by water, as well as another house. Fix that problem before you send me my way. Or buy me out.
Okay, I think we've heard that. You have another comment, please?
Speak.
Yes.
My name is Michelle Arquette Albert. I've lived off of Apple Harvest Drive since the early 80s. I now live at 12764 Apple Harvest Drive, which is a farm, and it's across the street from this gentleman. Up until about July this year, for the year previous, we had water running through Evans Run, which runs right through our property, right along our driveway. We've had 3 pumps in our basement that ran 24/7. I know about this water issue. It's been going on for almost 30 years, and it's not been fixed. It's just getting worse, and it affects us people. You all don't live there. A lot of these people that are making these decisions and doing these developments don't live there and have to deal with it. We have to. And I'm sure you wouldn't like to have 2 feet of water in your basement. I'm sure you wouldn't like to not be able to have your animals out in the yard. We have cows. We've had tractors that have gotten stuck, not just one, several tractors that have gotten stuck in our fields. It's ridiculous of what happens when the water comes through. I have videos on my phone that I can show you how massive it comes through. It comes up over our driveway, which is not safe. It's a health issue for our septics, for our wells. We have multiple wells on our property that you can see the water pumping up out of the well. It's an issue that has to be fixed and addressed. I'm not sure where, but somewhere. It comes from over, starting at Oars and works its way over. So obviously, we're concerned for this development that's being proposed because all that all that stormwater is going to come our way, and something needs to be done. Who are the people that go out and what are their credentials? Because something's not being done properly. The houses that are built there now should have never been built. They're in a flood zone. They should have never been approved by this county. So something somewhere is going wrong, and it needs to be addressed instead of keep building and keep putting more so that the stormwater comes through our area. Something has to be done. I guess that's all I have.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who wishes to speak?
I'm Daniel Hughes. I live at 228 Divine Drive, same area as previous speakers here. And there is numerous properties along Evans Run, downstream from where the subdivision is proposed to be put in. Last year was an extraordinary wet weather year, and nobody can deny that. It was extraordinary. But this Evans Run has continually, I've lived there for almost 25 years and seen it flood numerous times. And maybe not to the extent of last year, but there are numerous springs besides Evans Run that feed into what is on the topo map as Evans Run. I'm sure the young lady had the Kinsman's farm to make it left. Can attest to that. This is limestone area, and there are numerous springs that come out. I have springs on my property. The property beside me has numerous springs that feed into Evans Run as well. And when the water table gets up or we get excessive runoff, that in lieu adds to the runoff. I guess I don't want to beat a dead horse in the mouth here, but flooding is a major issue on Evans Run. Like Michelle said, most of these properties should have never been approved to have houses up on it. I guess my suggestion is I would like, especially the Corps of Engineers, to be involved in this planning of this subdivision. Authorities up above and beyond the county that know water control, flood control, because something beyond just this subdivision needs to be done with Evans Run, all the way down to, crossing Route 11, all the way down. It floods throughout Evans Run, and something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Jim Griffin. I'm the president of Pikeview West Homeowner Association. I had a call last night that there was a public hearing tonight about Evans Run. We had no knowledge of this at all because there was no notice posted on Evans Run in our area. Like Ms. Mason said, we have a lot of houses that flood. Last year, I knew 3, or year before, and when that water ran for probably 8 or 9 months, 3 houses had water in their basement all summer long, and they pumped them out. And I've been in 2 of them up to my knees in the water trying to help them get cleaned out. The railroad back, I think it was around in 80, somewhere in the 80s, they went in, and that bridge that Evans Run runs under is over 100 years old, and they put a big corrugated pipe in there, which now it narrows it down. And there was one house in our subdivision that the man actually felt like he was living on a peninsula during that heavy rain for that season because the water backs up. And I just hope that somebody, I know where this subdivision is they want to build, but I don't know if anybody actually came down and looked and followed that creek all the way down to Big Springs, because we can't handle 34 more houses. We have enough problem with those houses along Evans Run as it is, the way it is now. Just because they're going to build a retention pond, that doesn't help, because once it gets full, it's going to come over. So I think somebody really needs to look at that. And my other question is, where do y'all post the signs when there's a public hearing? I would think if it was on Evans Run, it would be, any subdivision that was along Evans Run should be posted and notified of it. But it wasn't.
It has to be posted.
That's all? So we're how many miles away, and if nobody rides up there? Okay.
It's also posted in the newspapers too.
Some people don't get the newspaper.
It's on the county's website too. I'm just telling
okay.
you. I'm just telling you where all
All
of
right.
it is posted. It's
Okay.
not
Well, I just hope somebody looks into it further than just the builder and the engineer. Like the man said, the Army Corps of Engineers probably needs to get involved in this.
Thank you. I got somebody else. In one time.
I'm Ed Lucas, and I've lived on that area for 77 years. They're on Divine Lane. I live up there on Lucas Lane. And part of the property there on Lucas Lane joined property that they're talking about. Last year was an exceptional year, but it's been like this year ever since the year I was born. They always told me I was born at home. They had to bring the doctor in the boat. come back to Vine Lane because of the water table. And the water table back then was running down the banks back there behind them houses, our house where it was at. There was an orchard back there, and all that water, hand dug well down there below, and water overflowed. There was a pond, a wet weather area in the field right in front of our house. It had cat and nine tails in it for 20 years before they could ever farm it. They had to go in a gate and go around that to get to the part of the field they need to farm. They dug ditches along the lane on the north side and on the south side so that water would run down to 45 and tie into Evans Run. And Evans Run is on the map from Ardenallville, there at Orrs, all the way through to Big Springs. And they've had a problem with it every time we get any large rains. And back on Divine Lane, they put 4 apartment houses back there. And I had it docked in the head so they couldn't put them in because I took the health department back there and I showed them. I said, now here, it lays wet like this in the spring of the year and sometimes cleaned up into the summer. They shouldn't put no apartments here because they're going to have problems. Well, they got it passed so they could. Well, every time they get any rain now, the toilets, I understand, are overflowing in the apartments. Because there's no sewer out there, it's all septic. So, you got that problem. You're going to have more of that problem. You keep putting more houses out there all along that run because it's a natural flow and they've changed part of it on them houses like down there to where Sharon's Lane and Divine Lane, they changed the creek, Evans Run, back to put houses in there. Instead of letting the houses be built right over top of where Evans Run was, they diverted it so it would go into that stream down along the Divine Lane. But it don't do that because it runs down along where natural. So that's why these people was having all this problem. And all that water's coming off that property. And a lot of the property you can't farm back there because my brother and I farmed it for the last few years, hay and things, and you can't get through there at times. We've sunk a baler, we've sunk a tractor right next to Evans Run. And all that land just gets so wet. So I don't see how, people has got to get out and walk this property and talk to the people in the area so they know what's going on. Instead of just going in and say, well, I'm going to take up this property and build a house. I know you're going to. That's what they want to do. But the thing of it is, don't propose a problem that you haven't taken care of. You're proposing more of a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.
Thank y'all.
I think we all hear that there is some flooding issues. Is there any other comments before Ms. McLean addresses the issues that have been brought up? Okay, do you want, wait a minute. Unlonely soldier out there. Now, if you're gonna talk about the flooding, we've already heard it, so, give us something else. Anything other than what they've already mentioned? Okay. Just give us your name. Just give us your name for the record. Okay.
I guess the only thing I was real quick is I moved into my property too, and 2 weeks after I moved into my property, I had flooding, and but I spoke to FEMA, also spoke to the Department. At that time, it was William Teach, engineer, and FEMA and Mr. William Teach recommended me to file a lawsuit against the county. But me being a first-time home buyer, being young, obviously I couldn't afford to do that. I had put most of my purchasing my home. And so I decided to more or less suck it up, take care of it. But during the times that I've been there, I've tried to improve it. But I've always tried to seek help through the county, the health department, or the state road, try to give me guidance how to improve it, because I didn't want to be actually another individual that maybe get my problem off to somebody. And that's what I'm concerned about this development coming in. Is it just going to pass the problem on to somebody? That's what I've always tried to do, to make sure that I didn't pass my problem off. I tried to go the right channels and seek the answers, but looking back at it, a lot of those individuals, they told me that money has exchanged hands. That's why these properties were passed. And I just would like to say that I'm just concerned about the flooding.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, do we have anybody else that wishes to speak?
Good evening. My name is Mike Toth. I live at 246 Sharon's Lane. And I know we've beaten this flooding thing, but I'm looking at their outline plot that they have here, and it looks to me that they're already building or proposing to build lot 7, 8, and 9, and Evans Run is running through those lots, which is exactly what's happening with all these people here whose Evans Run has gone through their lots. So they're already proposing putting 3 lots that's going to have the same issues that everybody else downstream is already having.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for one more comment. Sir, come forward, please. You have something to talk about other than the flooding?
Yeah.
Okay.
A general comment. My name's Robert Mudge, and I've lived in this county all my life. Tell you how long I have lived in this county. Every farm I've worked on.
Sir, you'll have to speak. You have to speak
Okay,
to the
so,
microphone. You have to
I
speak to the
think
microphone.
my comment's worth hearing.
Okay. What's your name again?
Robert Mudge. That's M-U-D-G-E.
Okay, thank you.
It seems like the problem when it comes to this drainage, stormwater management, transportation, schools, fire, rescue, EMS service like that is simply Berkeley County has always put the cart before the horse. It seems like when I've done some research and looked, about just reading ordinary newspapers and online doing some research like that, communities that work well develop an infrastructure first and then they do the development. I don't see that ever happening in this town. But the developments spring up, and then we got a 2-lane road, and then the state of West Virginia's solution to a turn lane is pave the shoulder of the road and just paint a line on it. And a perfect example of this right now is down there at Spring Mills. After you go through the intersection, heading north, if you're driving a tractor trailer right there, they widen the road, then all of a sudden, Kitsy's is on your left, and the WVU urgent care is on your right there. And as soon as you get through that intersection, you better be like Mario Andretti, because all of a sudden, those 4 lanes come into the original width of Route 11. That's the kind of infrastructure we set up here. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, you got to have the roads and everything developed before you do the development. And the same way with the storm management. And considering I've taught school for 32 years and I'm retired now, my wife still teaches. Anybody who knows has kids in school or whatever, the schools are overcrowded. Don't you think it's time we slow down a little bit and give everyone some breathing room around here? Whether you drive to work, whether you have children in school, or any other jobs you're associated with here. I'm telling you, you gotta put the infrastructure in before you do the development. Don't you think so?
We hear you. We've talked to the highway department, sir. Sir, you don't have to turn your back to me. I'm trying to answer you. Okay, I'm ready to close the public hearing. I've had enough. Ms. McLean, you want to come up and answer questions?
Yes, ma'am. So I was jotting down any of the concerns that I heard. A lot of them have to do with things that we will have to take care of at the preliminary plan stage. At this conceptual stage, we are aware of any wetlands on the property. We are aware that we will need to coordinate with the Army Corps of Engineers, those lots 7, 8, and 9, if there's any stream crossings associated with the run. That's going to require bringing in the Pittsburgh office of the Army Corps of Engineers. Stormwater quality and quantity will need to be addressed. We have had a conceptual meeting with the county engineer, but until we get past this approval of the conceptual idea of the sketch, we can't get into that next, that next phase of design. Riparian buffers will be respected as are required by code, as will be required in the review that staff will do. Traffic will be reviewed by West Virginia DOH. It's not something that, the county even would pretend to say it stops with them. It goes to the state, it goes to the federal government when required. Department of Health will have to address and approve any well and septics on the property. The public hearing sign was posted in accordance with the requirements. It go in the paper. I just would encourage you to focus on what we're here tonight, which is the developer has met the performance standards as required in Article 4 for a sketch plan. These are issues that have been brought up are not, it's not that they are well worth considering and taking into consideration when we go into the next phase, but we can't address them unless we're allowed to go to the next phase. So I would just welcome any other questions you have and be glad to answer them.
Okay. We're ready for closing the public hearing. A motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Lewis to close public hearing. Need a second? Second by Ms. Norton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Do you have questions of Ms. McLean or of the staff? And we have heard all the comments, and trust me, they will be addressed.
Derek. Derek, can you come back in a minute? Not yours.
Okay, do you want to give me a motion?
Do you want the two different motions, one for sidewalk exemption?
Yes.
Move we
Please give us your consideration while we're making our motion.
move we accept the waivers for the sidewalk exemption.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker to exempt the sidewalk requirements. Second by Ms. Norton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now I need a motion for sketch plan advancement. Motion by Ms. Norton. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll see a show of hands, please. All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you.
Anyone up there?
give you a few minutes to exit the room, please? We do have more business to discuss, if you would make your exit quietly. Let the record show that Mr. Smith returned to quorum. Okay, go ahead.
Next on the agenda is a request for sketch plan advancement. The project is Mountaineer Gas Service Center, file number 41-19. The developer is Mountaineer Gas Company. The engineer is Potesta and Associates Incorporated. It's in the Opequon District, tax map 6, parcel 37. The property is located on the west side of US Route 11, Williamsport Pike, approximately 0.1 mile north of Joshua Drive and 0.2 miles north of Berkeley Plaza. The project proposes a 9,046 square foot commercial warehouse and office building to be served by public water and sewer. At the November 18, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted a waiver to the Berkeley County Subdivision Ordinance, Article 8, Section 801.1.10, requiring paved off-street parking. The developer is also requesting an exception to Section 705 to not install sidewalks, as there are no sidewalks currently in the vicinity. The county engineer, Dirk Stansberry, issued a letter of completion on November 14, 2019, and stated that the sketch plan meets the requirements to advance to the preliminary plan stage. Staff recommends granting the sidewalk exception, and with the sidewalk exception, the sketch plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends advancement of the sketch plan to the preliminary plan stage.
Okay. Do we have anyone to represent the project, please?
Good evening. Joe Connector with Potesta and Associates.
Okay, this is a public hearing again. If you have questions or you'd like to make known, it's your opportunity to do so. Please come forward, state your name, your address, and what questions you might have.
Public hearing be closed.
Let the record show that there are no comments. Motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Lewis to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Planning Commission, do you have questions of the representative or of the staff?
Two motions again?
Yep.
For the sidewalk exemption,
Yep.
move to approve or accept the sidewalk exemption.
You're making a motion. Do I have a second to it?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith.
Sure.
Okay.
Second by everybody.
That's right, Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Smith, to accept staff recommendation and accept the sidewalk stipulations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll make a motion that we accept staff recommendation to advance the sketch plat to preliminary plan stage.
Motion by Mr. Deal to accept staff recommendation and advance to the preliminary plan stage.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Amberfield, section 6.
Yes, Amberville, Section 6. This is a request for preliminary plan approval. It's lots 114 through 126 and 131 through 143. File number 54-18. Developer Highlands of the Potomac, LLC. Engineer Fox and Associates. Falling Waters District, map 14, parcel 11.15. This project is located on the west side of Kitchen Orchard Road, West Virginia Route 1, approximately .45 miles from the intersection of Grade Road, West Virginia Route 1/4. This project proposes 26 single-family residential lots on approximately 31 acres to be served by public water and private septic. At the January 7th, 2019 Planning Commission meeting, the developer was granted an exception to Section 705 to not install sidewalks. The county engineer issued a letter of completion on November 13th, 2019, and stated that the preliminary plan meets the requirements to advance to the final plat stage. The preliminary plan meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance, therefore staff recommends advancement of the preliminary plan to the final plat stage.
Do we have anyone to represent the project?
Steve Sianovich with Fox and Associates, representing the applicant.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Sianovich or the staff?
If there are no questions, I move we accept staff recommendation and advance the preliminary plan to the final plan stage.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Whitaker, second by Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation and advance the preliminary plan to final plat stage for Amberfield Section 6, Lot 114 through 126 and 131 to 143. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Advertise that for public hearing. Do we advertise that for public hearing?
Not yet, no. If we did, it was for,
Excuse me, next on the agenda is a request for preliminary final plat approval. The project is Shirley V. Dokes Estate, file number 1-19. The developer is Kip Washington. The surveyor is Terry Plecanica. Arden District, map 11K, parcel 4. The property is located approximately 200 feet east of Route 9/15 along the south boundary of Route 9/16 Douglas Grove Road, southeast of Martinsburg. The project proposes the creation of one lot consisting of 2.01 acres and one residue lot consisting of 6.14 acres to be served by well and septic. The county engineer, Dirk Stansberry, issued a letter of approval on December 2nd, 2019, stating a review of the above-mentioned project had been completed and was found to be in compliance with the subdivision ordinance. The project is found to be complete in compliance with the 2009 Berkeley County subdivision regulations, and therefore, staff recommends approval of the preliminary final plat.
good to see you.
Hi. My name's Terry Mechanica. I'm representing the project.
Thank you. Planning Commission members, do you have questions of Mr. Plecanica or of the staff? If not, can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept staff recommendation for approval of the preliminary plan. Second.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, second Mr. Goff, to accept staff recommendation and approve the preliminary final plat for Shirley V. Dokes Estate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
To wrap up the meeting this evening, a few departmental updates. We have the project review sheets for the month for planning review. And we are still having weekly meetings for the Llama software. You'll get some more detailed information in the weeks to come on that rollout, and things are going well. The airport ordinance, I talked to Penny today, and it sounds like I will hopefully be on the January 9th county council schedule to give a general update and overview of the changes made since the last time we presented. And then after that meeting, they will determine at council when to hold the public hearing. So there's no public hearing yet until I catch them up to speed on everything that we've done. The subdivision ordinance discussion, we have Appendix A included in this packet. That's the manual of street standards. Dirk has worked diligently on that to go through some recommendations for making it easier to understand. So that's in your hands for review. The next two items we will be rolling out to you are Article 5 design standards and the Article 8 that includes off-street parking, buffering, screening. These three sections, Appendix A, and those two articles seem to be the most controversial as far as what we're requiring in designs, what we're allowed to require if there's no zoning, and we are specifically focused on, you know, parking lot counts and buffering and all those things. So I'll be rolling those articles out to you, and then once you have all three, we can kind of map out some time within the planning commission meeting to go over your thoughts on how they look and recommendations of what you would like to see changed.
Just for clarification, what has been highlighted here, these are insertions?
Mm-hmm. And I can get you, I'll email you the original manual of street standards, just so you know what we're operating with now. Okay.
Have you folks received a copy of the 2009 subdivision regulations? Could you get a copy for them so that they?
I haven't received one from Planning, but I have one.
Would you prefer hard copy or electronic?
Electronics.
Okay, I can get that to you. That's all I have.
Okay.
We have been operating now without any ordinance direction on most of the ordinance references on ordinance, which was the 2016 ordinance, which has nothing in it. We modified the adjustment ordinance.
There you go.
It's good to be the king, isn't it, Dirk?
Alrighty. Is there anything else that you wish to speak this evening?
Move we adjourn.
I hope everybody have a wonderful Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Motion to adjourn, second?
Second.
Okay, the motion by Mr. Goff, second by Mr. Smith, because you're right there.
That's right.
All those in favor, stand up.
All those in favor?
Stand up.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't stand it.
So that means somewhere in the house. I saw the flip on my belt. You know, left early. Sat down there close.
Probably in your chair then.
That's what I'm talking. Yes. I'm like, what did that say? Very good.
Question for you to add, Jim.
It's probably something stupid like that.
Sarah.
At least it's not at school. Can't wait around nothing.
It's good to get there to relax a little bit before your day starts.